Hello, my name is Viiveck Verma. I've been someone who's been working with the startups for the last 12 years, mentoring, investing, and more importantly, guiding them. I spent about almost 3 decades in the corporate world, thankfully had experience of doing new business ideas while still being in the corporate world. And hence, when I decided to quit the corporate life and start something on my own, startup has been a very active part of my life. In these 10-12 years, I've mentored little over 300 startups, invested in 35 of them, have been part of many funding organizations, was a founding member of one of the funds in Hyderabad, and really enjoyed my journey as a mentor through these 300 startups, through these 35 which I invested in, and through many incubators that I'm associated with now, like T-Hub, like IIIT, like the NSR cell at IIM Bangalore, like the Niti Aayog, and a few others. I've really been working with the startups to be a guide to them, to help them refine their thinking, to help them listen to the feedback they are getting, to help them refine the problem that they are trying to solve, and most importantly, help them to present and position their solution in the eyes of the customer and the investment companies in a manner that they become compelling. And it really gives me superb energy and superb, confidence in the way the startup founders are looking at finding solutions today. The kind of energy they bring is the energy we as a nation and as a world need to find solutions to the societal problems that we have, whether it is about water, whether it is about environmental challenges, whether it is on healthcare, whether it is on education, or whether it is on one of the most important topics today, livelihood. All of these problems can be solved by startups by bringing their energy. And I think these startups can be helped by people like me and many others who are mentors to help them and guide them. I think the Indian ecosystem is evolving and evolving very, very fast. There are some pockets where it's working very well. Bangalore, Hyderabad, Gurgaon, Pune, and a few other cities, and some other places which is coming up. What really encourages me and what really gives me a very high is the fact that the way entrepreneurship or startups are happening in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns. So it's no longer something which is only restricted to the Mumbais and the Delhis and the Hyderabad's and Bangalore. Today you can get a startup who's coming from Coimbatore, who's coming from Trivandrum, who's coming from Guwahati, who's coming from Shillong, or from Jammu and smaller towns in Rajasthan. So I think the whole virus, if I may call it, of startups is really spread to every nook and corner of the India. And I think it has happened because problems exist there. And everyone is now starting to think that why should I not find a solution? Why should I depend on somebody else? So I think the ecosystem is evolving. It is helping the corporate world. It is helping the whole development sector. And I think it is helping India as a nation. If we want to become a 5 trillion economy, then startups will play a very, very critical role. That 5 trillion economy cannot happen without the startups getting involved. So I think one of the challenges that happens when you're working with startups, when you're mentoring them and guiding them, is quite often the founders get very passionate. They start falling in love with their solution, which is good in a way, but they also need to understand that they have to listen to what the market is telling them. They have to listen to what others are telling them. So one of the challenges is you find sometimes the startups don't reconcile to that. They think I have built a solution and maybe the market is not understanding it. But that's not how it works, because your customer is that person. If he is not understanding your solution, then it's not going to work. So that's one challenge I feel. The second, which is the bigger challenge, is that a lot of startups today, because of all this unicorn funding, valuation, $1 billion, millions of dollars, somebody is buying a 5-bedroom villa, a fancy car. So a lot of startup founders get carried away by all of that. So it is important that we have to bring them back to the fact that you have set out not to make just the money. You have set out to solve a problem. Focus on that. All of that will happen. But your focus can't be that. Your focus has to be on your solution, on what you are working on. So that becomes a challenge because young people, they tend to get carried away that, what valuation will I get? Can I get investment? You see a lot of young startups, I have an idea and I want $1 million. And you're saying, for what do you want the $1 million? So I think bringing them back to the solution, bringing them back to the core work they do is another challenge. So I think for me, what I look for in a successful entrepreneur, for me, the number one is what I call the ability to be coached. That is this founder coachable? Is this founder someone who will listen to the market, listen to the investors, listen to his or her team? Because the founder needs to listen and then adopt what is the market demanding and change things. So that's the number one thing that I look at in a founder. The number two thing I look at in a founder is their ability to work with people. Because it's very important for a startup founder to say that, you meet founders that I know everything and I can do everything. Now that as an attitude will not work. You need to be able to delegate. You need to be able to work with team members, especially in a startup space, because you don't have large teams. You have few people. If you can't work with them, that becomes a problem. And the third is people need to come in with a long-term view. That they can't come and say, I want to do this for 2 years and then get out. That's not the way the startups will be built. That's not how the sustainability will happen. So they need to be passionate to play for the long. So I'm going to be in this field for the next 5-10 years. I will solve this problem. And their focus has to be on that rather than on running after some valuation, some exit. So I think those three are things that I look at in the startup founder. So I think the way, what I do, where I get involved with the tier 2, tier 3 towns is actually go and talk about and evangelize the concept of entrepreneurship. The entrepreneurship concept in colleges, in schools. I'm involved in an initiative through TIE where we talk to school students about entrepreneurship. Lots of college students. So clarify to them, clear their minds about the fact that what is entrepreneurship, what is startup. So that's one thing that I'm involved in. The second thing that I'm involved in is to be part of many hackathons. These are very important for these youngsters to really dirty their hands to build solutions, where we go and pose a problem and say in the next 48 hours where you actually live there. So for 48 hours, you don't go anywhere. You sit there and develop a solution. And that's what we do as hackathons. So that's the other thing we do with a lot of tier 2, tier 3 towns. So they get their hands dirty. Third is to give them exposure. Meet them, get them to meet some of these founders, get them to come to events like that so that they understand what is happening. Because ambition exists with them. Thinking ability exists with them. What they don't have is access. What they don't have is some of the knowledge. So if we can provide that, it will make a massive difference. So when I am looking at investing, as I said earlier, founder is the one thing that I look at. But beyond the founder, I think it is about, I look at 4 things in a startup. What's the problem they're solving? How big is the problem? What is the solution? How unique is the solution? Scalability of the solution. And last but not the least is the monetization. How will it make money? So to me, those 4 are the important things when I'm looking at wearing an investor hat and looking at a startup. So I think the future for capital or risk is, I think there is a bright future, very, very bright future, because startups are going to be doing wonderful work. They're solving a lot of wonderful problems, and the capital also needs to be deployed. See, the capital also is important for them to deploy. So a lot of funds are also wanting to deploy. The question is of only making the right matchmaking. And that is where I think startups need to work on to be able to tell their story powerfully and to be able to tell the solution. But I don't see a challenge on the risk capital side. There is capital available. Startups are thinking about risk mitigation, are thinking about what could be the potential problems, solving that already. So I think in that sense, I am very bullish that, this space will only grow. To me, I think given the sheer size of the problem, I think to me, healthcare education, livelihood are the three big spaces where I think a lot of revolution is needed, and I think startups need to work and change things in that. And the fourth thing is about the whole equality, equity about gender, because today we still live in a very patriarchal world. So how do we bring gender equity in the world? And I think lots of work needs to be done. So those three and the gender equity would be where I think a lot more work needs to happen and are the bright sectors. Thank you.